Opening statements are expected today in FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried's criminal trial. Over the expected 6 weeks of the trial, we'll hear from former friends and colleagues about the inner workings of sister companies FTX and Alameda Research. Our next guest was a research engineer at Alameda Research, and he says his life savings were lost in the collapse of the two companies. Welcome to the show, Aditya Baradwaj. Adi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jen. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. All right, let's start off with the basics. How long did you work at Alameda and when?
So I was an engineer at Alameda starting mid to late 2021 and right up until the end, so pretty much November of 2022.
What was it like working with Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison?
It was very interesting. I mean, all of you have heard the stories about, Sam and Caroline and their personalities and kind of many of the crazy stories that happened on the inside. It was a very interesting experience and really unfortunate that it ended the way it did. Really, I'm just very excited for the trial to get started, excited to see, all the stuff that comes out there, and excited to see the consequences served to the appropriate people.
Adi, you say excited, but you also say you lost your life savings to this. So is there like a mixed bag of emotions going on for you right now? And where does that excitement come from?
Yeah, it's absolutely a mixed bag. The thing is, I've had several months now to kind of just process everything that we all went through as employees of the company. It was a very intense experience, and there was a lot of uncertainty in the moment about how things would pan out, both for ourselves and also for the customers and investors who were affected. At this point, it's been about a year now, and I'm just honestly trying to put this stuff behind me and move forward and get on to the next thing.
Have you been called as a witness, or are you going to be called as a witness? Have you given any testimony? I mean, this is a criminal trial here going on, and I assume as an engineer you're privy to some things going on. How come you're on TV and not in the courtroom testifying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not going to be a witness, but I do know that there's some former colleagues of mine who are going to be doing that. As for me, I'm just going to be kind of on the sidelines, passively watching and seeing how things unfold.
So I guess the big question that everybody wants to know is what do you think of all this, right? I mean, there's some very different stories out there. The defense is saying kind of like, oh, we didn't know, it was a mistake. There's a lot of finger pointing. Sam is saying like, oh, I didn't really know what Caroline was doing over at Alameda. I mean, what is your take on what actually happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. The thing is, I think, each of us who was an employee of the company, we have sort of a small piece of this whole story. And so I have my piece, but I don't really know kind of the full picture myself, right? And my point of view is, we have some information just based on the confession that Caroline gave to us, the employees of Alameda, which has now been widely reported, which would seem to imply that, there was this clear decision that was taken by Sam and Caroline and Nishad and Gary, which involved fraudulent misuse of customer funds. And so, if we're to believe that, then I guess that would basically lead to all of them being guilty. But of course, I'm not a lawyer. Don't know much about the legal side of things. And so really, I think we'll have to wait to see how everything unfolds in the courts.
So you say that you didn't have a full picture. I mean, was there any point when you were working there where you just had kind of like a bad feeling, like something doesn't seem right here, something seems off, or was it just kind of like business as usual?
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, it pretty much seemed like business as usual right up until the end. I mean, for all of us at Alameda, the days before the company collapsed, it just seemed like a few really busy days of trading. We had no reason to believe that anything was going on basically until the very last day. And that's when Caroline pulled us aside and told us what had been going on behind closed doors.
So speaking of pointing fingers, there was an incident with a fat finger mistake you said caused a collapse in the price of Bitcoin temporarily on Binance. Explain a little bit of that. And more importantly, what is the role in Binance in relation to what Alameda did? Were they involved in any way? Was there any amount of bots or insider basically trading that was, let's say, not up to snuff as far as you know as an engineer? Were there any things in terms of painting the tape, for instance, when it came to prices on either Binance or FTX?
Yeah, so the fat finger trade, which you mentioned, is just one of many instances of really poor, security and risk checks at the company. Checks that at any traditional trading firm would have probably been established long before trading had even started. And that's just one of many, right? And I think a big part of why I wanted to share that story is just to kind of describe what the environment was on the inside at Alameda, and honestly also at FTX. These were companies where, there were decisions that were made with, involving large amounts of money with very little, checks and balances involved. And yeah, there was a ton of that kind of stuff. But what we would have never expected is, sort of anything illegal or anything even close to the scale of, what Sam apparently was doing, which was, significant misuse of customer funds.
Illegal is questionable, but when it comes to crypto, there are arguments that, well, painting the tape isn't really illegal because it's crypto, it's not regulated. Did any of that happen here? Were you as an engineer at any time asked to do something which would basically print prices that weren't there or do anything that wasn't actually there? And also, did you get a sense that there was a clear line difference between Alameda and FTX?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to answer your first question, no, not at all, right? And I know all of my former colleagues at Alameda. If any of us had ever been asked to do anything like that, we all would have quit on the spot. That's the kind of environment that it was. So yeah. I mean, not to my knowledge, although it seems like there were many things going on at the company that were not to any of our knowledge.
And was there a clear difference between you and between Alameda and FTX? Did you get a sense that you're working for separate companies, or did it feel like you were working for the same company, or were you asked to do things for FTX and Alameda at the same time?
We were never asked to do things for the other company, and there were separations set up. For example, in the Bahamas, we had physically distinct offices, different GitHub code bases, different access controls, things like that. That said, both companies were, at the end of the day, owned mostly by Sam Bankman-Fried, and the employees socially knew each other, so it was a joint social environment. Some of the office spaces were also joined in Hong Kong and Berkeley, for example. So it was a mixed bag, in terms of the finer details of which of those things are improper and which of those are possibly illegal. I think it's up to the courts and the lawyers to decide that.
Adi, we got to wrap, but quickly, I want to know, do you still plan on working in crypto, and do you hold any crypto?
I do hold some crypto, and yes, I am working in crypto. Actually, we've just started a company that's building infrastructure for crypto markets, and the idea is to build something that's positive and lasting in this space. So I'm still very bullish and still working in this space. All
right, Adi, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
CoinDesk reached out to FTX Bankman-Fried's defense attorney and Binance for comment. Ahead of Aditya's appearance on this show, we have not yet heard back. All right, that was former Alameda Research engineer Aditya Baradwaj.